Saint Edith Stein says that the most important aspect of educating women is to form the emotional life, but to form it in relationship to religious truth. So let's start with what are the emotions, how to process them and form them correctly, and then why religious truth matters. Okay, in classic Catholic teaching, there is a hierarchy of being, right? Adam and Eve were perfect, and so their being was totally in harmony with itself. Pope John Paul called this original integration, that there was no conflict within them, whereas St. Paul says, right, why do I do that which I don't want to do? Because he had conflict within himself. So the original hierarchy of being for Adam and Eve, and for us as well, though our members are not always in harmony, but the original hierarchy of being is intellect, or also you could say reason, and then will, and then emotions. So in the original design, before sin, Adam and Eve would perceive the good with their intellect, and then their will would correspond to will the good, and then their emotions would correspond to support their will in pursuing the good. That's what emotions are. Emotions are simply movements of the heart. They're energy, like Gestalt energy to move us. St. Thomas Aquinas says that there are two kind of orders of emotions. There's the lower order, and that's emotion tied to physical life. So something scares me, there's a dog attacking me, and I feel fear. Or I'm getting a massage, and I feel like pleasure and comfort. That's a lower order of emotion. And then the higher order of emotion is more with the spiritual realm. So whereas for the lower order of emotion, I might feel pain, but in the higher order, I would feel sorrow. In the lower order, I would feel pleasure. In the higher order, I would feel joy, right? Emotions, therefore, are simply energy. They're neither good nor bad. Now, in my family growing up, the only emotions we were permitted to express publicly were good ones, were happy ones. My mother used to say, right, love's a decision, put on a smile. And I was an angsty teen in like some good deal of pain, and it was not welcome to be expressed in my family. So for me, when I got to college at Notre Dame, when I was a senior, I realized like I'm a big ball of mess. Like I'm repressed. I have all these different feelings. I don't know how to express them. So I began going to counseling to learn what to do with all this anxiety and suppressed emotions that I had. So for you as well, maybe you grew up in a family where negative emotions weren't welcome. Or maybe you grew up in a family where there was an excess of emotion and it could be scary sometimes. One of the first steps, the most important steps in learning to have emotional education is simply to learn to name what I'm feeling. My children, when they were little, had a book called Lots of Feelings, and they loved that book. And it would simply say like, Johnny's ice cream cone fell down, he feels sad. Or Jane gets to play at the park, she feels happy. But giving names to our emotions. It can be difficult if we've not learned what our emotions are. It can be difficult to name them. So first, do your best and take time to really feel what you're feeling and think of it and give it a name and maybe write it down. That's step number one. Then step number two is knowing what to do with our emotions, right? Now, it's easy to know what to do with, quote, positive emotions. I feel really happy. I'm glad to see you. I'm going to give you a hug. Or, oh, I'm surprised. You gave me a surprise birthday party. I'm so happy. But what if I'm really angry? What if something happened and I'm fuming mad? Or I'm really scared, or I'm sad. It can be difficult to know socially how to process these emotions. Here are some techniques and tips that I've learned over the years. One is to write down the name of the emotion over and over and over until I kind of get it out of my system. So I might get a big black marker and paper, and I might write down anger, anger, anger again and again until it's out of my system. Or if I'm feeling anxious, anxiety is more of actually like a body response, less of like a pure emotion. So with anxiety especially, it's important to actually do what my body feels like it wants to do. If I feel like I want to run, and I can run at this moment, go for a run, right? If I want to curl up into a ball on my bed and squeeze my knees so tightly, go for it. Those different things actually will reset your vagal nerve and help to bring calm to your brain. Also, if I'm feeling sad or frightened, talking about it really helps too, right? Especially with a loved one who I really trust, I can get a big strong hug and talk about why I'm feeling sad and then cry. Scientists have actually found under a microscope that there's a different chemical structure between tears just to like lubricate my eyes and tears of sorrow. And it really is a release physically. So if this is a big area of growth for you, you might look for a book about how to process emotions. There's lots of different techniques to help to know what to do with what you're feeling. So we've talked about what emotions are and then how to process them, namely giving them a name and then helping to work through them in different ways. So finally, we have the question, why did St. Edith Stein say that it's important to have education in the emotions and tied to religious truth? Well, Jesus in the Gospel of John says what to his disciples, right? He says, the world will rejoice, but you will weep and mourn. And very much in our day, we have the case where the world rejoices for all kinds of things for which we who love Jesus weep and mourn. Maybe somebody close to us has said, I've discovered that this is truly who I am, and I'm going to come out of the closet and tell you. And that makes us really sad because they're not living in conformity with the truth written into their bodies. So as we form ourselves and we form our children, it's really important to teach them the anthropology of the Catholic faith, which is based in sacred scripture and interpreted by the magisterium of the church, so that we can know what truly is God's plan for us to be human, what truly is cause for celebration and rejoicing, and for what do we weep. As each of us grow, let's really strive to have integration within ourselves, so that first our intellect perceives what is the good, and then we will to conform with the good, and then our emotional life supports that will. God bless.